You hate drawing backgrounds, but you suck without them. Now, look, I've been the first to tell you, drawing backgrounds can be a literal pain, but once you're done, they're definitely worth it if you execute them properly. You draw backgrounds for really two reasons. One, the technicality of it, and two, to enhance your story. And in this video, we're going to be discussing them both. Now, visually, I want you guys to be seeing what I'm working on. I'm working on a digital illustration, doing some digital painting here, trying out some new techniques of how I could come up with digital paintings, and also drawing a really key, important place in Apple Black, which is Black Bottom Island's Guild for Young Sorcerers. It's basically the school for sorcerers that's recognized by the Eden capital Siren, and that's kind of like a key place to where the students go, learn sorcery, and then they graduate, earn a cloak and a badge, and then they apply to join a fellowship. Each country has 5 fellowships, and all those fellowships have certain roles they play to maintain the status of the country and continue to push the Eden regime. All this is obviously part of the world building of my world that I've created in Apple Black, published and serialized on Saturday AM. If you want to learn about Apple Black, read the first couple chapters for free, all that good stuff. Volume 1 and 2 currently available. Everything you could possibly need will be in the description below. I also have other videos talking specifically about world building, specifically about the Apple Black world and how things run in Apple Black and things of that nature. So there'll be links to videos you guys can go watch after this. For now, please like this video and hit subscribe. Hit that bell so you stay notified each time I upload absolutely anything. And let's dive into the reasons why you draw backgrounds and or why they are important. So 1, for technical reasons, you need to draw backgrounds so we as readers know where the scene takes place. You want consistency with the shots and the camera angles. You want to draw backgrounds, especially when there is interaction between the character placed in the background and the background itself. For example, if the camera angle is showing the full body of the character, you need to put some background in there so that it doesn't just look like the character is floating in this mythical empty space, unless it's literally an empty space. So you might want to draw the floor, or if the character is like standing on the wall, like Matrix, you want to draw the wall that you're standing on. If they're like punching a wall, you want to draw the actual impact of the wall, or at least like slightly before or slightly after impact between the punch and that wall. So you need to draw that wall, and it helps us understand even further what's going on, not just where it's taking place. You can't be trying to draw a character, say, kick a wall. That's what you're trying to convey, but then you draw the character kicking and there isn't any wall, and you expect the audience to know what happened. If characters are battling in a pond, you want to sell the environment and have like water splashing and part of their clothes being wet and them soaked in water, or part of their feet buried in the water or something like that. Or you have characters swimming. You can't draw a character swimming and not draw water. So you need to figure out how you draw whatever it is in your style and make sure it's implemented in the panel, the shot, the story, whatever. If not, you would just be leaving off information, like the necessary information for your viewer to know what's going on. So you're drawing it for interaction, you're drawing it to give information, including where it's taking place, but including what's actually going on. Leaving certain things out can make your work look lazy or incomplete, or things of that nature. If a character is talking about something in front of them, you want to at least have one panel, one of the panels, one of the shots depicting both the character and the object that's being interacted with or talked about in the same shot or in the same panel or something, so that the viewer can link the two. And that goes for not just backgrounds, but even certain objects. If a character is talking about a certain object or a certain, maybe a bullet wound, you want to like show both. You know what I mean? You want to be able to have the character talk about it in the panel and then reveal that visually in the panel as well. So this is like when it comes to drawing, but even if it's like a novel and you're writing these things out, you need to write it in such a way that it's impactful and that the reader or viewer or whatever knows what's going on. And it's usually best to do it once the character begins to talk about the certain thing or interact with a certain thing. So if, say, you were talking about, say, I don't know, the death of his grandpa, or maybe you draw the character as they begin to talk about it, like with impact, say, in front of the grandfather's graveyard with the stone, the tombstone. That helps everything visually to sell whatever you're trying to convey. And it's more complex than that, but I don't want to dive into much of the technical aspects of things, but it's just to let you know that drawing backgrounds is important because it adds a whole lot from a technical standpoint to what you're trying to do. The key thing is to be able to defend what you do, so do what you do with purpose. So you may be able to bend the rules sometimes as long as you know the foundations. There are some pro comics that don't draw backgrounds in every panel, and then there are some that do. It comes down to the style and consistency. The best background drawing styles are usually when the backgrounds are drawn just enough to make sure the readers are not confused as to where the scene is taking place, and they understand the importance of the locations to the story, as well as, you know, it being up to you to come up with your own style and reasoning and then be consistent. Draw just enough to make sure that the reader always has the key important information as to whatever's going on. There are also comics that, you know, 100% have no backgrounds and they're still fine, even though usually those are like maybe comedies or short stories or whatever. Mastering drawing backgrounds is very hard, especially if you want to do it, you know, creatively, where it's completely original. These things take a lot of time. In some cases you need to do a lot of research, do a lot of reference work, and like practice a lot for years sometimes to truly become comfortable at drawing and understanding backgrounds and the important role they play in an illustration from a compositional standpoint and a technical one. Sometimes backgrounds can make an illustration look 100 times better, and in some cases they can look 100 times worse if you don't execute properly. The second more interesting reason you draw backgrounds and why they're important is because they can enhance the story with potential significance. Some background drawings can be viewed as characters of their own. The characters that should be taken care of, you take your time to design them, no rushing, because you're gonna draw them over and over again. In some cases there are places you revisit, so you have to like to draw them. You have to love the place to a certain degree. Even in novels where you don't have to draw them, you have to describe them, the aura, the mood, the look, physical aspects of it over and over, so that the viewer has enough information to like create it in their own head. But my point is, especially if you're drawing it, it has to be something that you've taken your time to design. Because if it's like an important place that the characters always revisit, and you're going to have to draw that place over and over again, in some cases from different angles. When designing them, you want to design them properly. What's the mood you want to give off with this building or this place, this landmark, whatever it may be. And I'll go into more detail as to the several things this could actually be. Is it supposed to be spooky? How do you sell that? It's supposed to be this grand castle, this big place that characters look up to, that's very significant. How do you sell that? Does it have a lot of magic? How do you sell that, right? When you introduce these places, it has to be important. It has to feel significant. Rushing through them or not giving them any importance or significance, or in some cases not drawing them at all, is doing a disservice to your world building and enhancing your story. Like I said, they can help with the infrastructure of your world, they can help with the world building of your story, they can help in importance, they can help in symbolism, history, lore. If the design is really cool, memorable, it could be like a really cool, memorable landmark that is tied to the essence of your story. Some of these places might be important because they have literal purposes, literal roles that they play in your story. So for instance, the walls in Attack on Titan, right? They are to prevent the Titans from getting into where the humans are. Very straightforward. We know what the walls do, and we know if anything happens to those walls, then someone is going to get digested. Like regular characters, these backgrounds can have character development over time where you reveal information, in fact, maybe new information or old information over time, you know, helping sell the essence of the place or landmark. Hell, some literally come to life. Some hold emotional weight when destroyed. Same way when characters die, that has emotional weight, especially when it's expressed by not just the characters in that world, but by the viewers, you know, feeling the impact. Examples would be Pain destroying Konoha in Naruto, even though the place got rebuilt like the next day. One thing to that point though is like sometimes it works better, especially if you're going to destroy a place or something like that. It's the same thing like killing a character. It's usually, not always, usually best if there are some consequences and things can't just go back to normal so easily. An example of this would be One Punch Man, how the background drawings are marvelous. They look beautiful, but the places get destroyed so easily that they don't hold any emotional weight at all. And somehow a lot of people don't die from any of those impacts anyways. So that's a little bit of a cop-out, but One Punch Man can get away with stuff like that because it's a comedy, for the most part. With the whole Pain destroying Konoha thing, they did a thing where Tsunade kind of saved the people, which I think still works. but like then the whole place was like rebuilt like the next day, which is still fine, I guess. But my point is, you know, it's usually more dire if you want to. If it depends on what you want to sell. If you want to sell tragedy, then you would have a whole lot more dire consequences attached to, say, the destruction of a key place or a key background. Leading to my next example would be the breaking of the walls in Attack on Titan. A lot of people got digested. Asgard in the Thor movies, especially the latest one, even though they also tied it Asgard to not just being a place but also the people. So in some cases the people could be part of the background. When you're drawing backgrounds, it's not, you know, empty. Let's say you're drawing this whole city or you're drawing a street. It's usually not empty unless it's like Walking Dead or something. I'm not going to spoil the latest Thor movie, but it did a little bit of that as well. The Statue of Liberty and the Planet of the Apes. So from a symbolic standpoint, obviously the Statue of Liberty holds a lot of weight. So doing damage to it is kind of sending a symbolic message to your reader or your audience, whatever the case may be. If you decapitate the Statue of Liberty, it's kind of like saying death to liberty, I guess. You know, I think is more accurate. And you can be sending that kind of message if that's what you're going for, or just to, it can also be used to show just the decrepit edge of reckoning of the world, especially, I guess, the US. Or in the Planet of the Apes case, the planet. Another example would be every place the Walking Dead characters settle. It always hits the fan. If you know, you know. Another key thing to know is that these backgrounds are like characters, right? So they have to be introduced. We need to spend some time with them to care and understand their existence and how they assist in the world building overall. So we care and know what kind of impact it's had if certain things happen to them. It could be used to shock us, have twists, cliffhangers, etc., all that good stuff. And like I said, it can also be used to convey symbolic messages to the readers or viewers or whatever the case may be. These kinds of important backgrounds could be cities, a set of people, statues, walls, items, lakes, rivers, schools. It could be a stadium where for battles of sports, buildings, churches, mountains, waterfalls, different dimensions, castles, etc. And they're usually things or places we revisit a lot in the story. Other examples in popular series would be Central and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Seirete, Soul Society, and Bleach, Mount Hokages and, you know, Konoha, Naruto, Shippuden, or whatever Naruto you want to go, Boruto, whatever the case may be, Mount Rushmore, the White House in Olympus Has Fallen, more real life, Wakanda, Black Panther, Statue of Liberty, like we just talked, Niagara Falls, Great Wall of China, Wall in Attack on the Titan, Wall in Game of Thrones, Death Weapon Meister Academy in Soul Eater, Hogwarts in Harry Potter, UA in My Hero Academia, literally all the ships in One Piece, especially Luffy's Straw Hat pirate ship, Asgard and Thor, the park in the Westworld, True Cross Academy and Blue Exorcist, Monster House, the list goes on. Obviously, all series can have many important character backgrounds, if you know what I mean, that play key roles. These are just what comes to mind right now. And like good characters, these backgrounds need to be introduced properly. Establishing shots are usually the best, and sometimes you can have a character say some things about the place to help sell the importance or use or whatever the case may be. My favorite example is using a character who's never visited the place or landmark before to sell what he or she feels facially or verbally, allowing the viewer to live vicariously through them. Sometimes you can have that character be accompanied by someone who is familiar and use the character that's familiar to subtly drop some smartly positioned exposition. This is a technique used all the time. If you see sometimes when characters are even like battling and then you have like an audience that are watching that battle, there's always one character that knows what all the characters are doing, what moves they're doing, why they're doing the moves, and then there's a character in the audience that doesn't get it, and then the character who does get it ends up explaining it to the character who doesn't get it, but that's just the creators indirectly explaining it to the audience just in case the audience is lost or might be lost as to what's actually going on in the battle. You just kind of have to be careful when you're doing that and using that technique, because you don't want to then spoil everything that's about to happen in the battle. You still want to be able to shock your audience. But that's a discussion about how to write battles or write certain battle scenes, especially in shonen series or any series really, and that's a video for another time. Bottom line is to take your time with backgrounds, especially the important ones, and treat them like important characters. Enjoy the process of creating them, as they are key and help your world building a lot. And you can see my world building video for more details if you're interested. In the meantime, I'd love to hear what your favorite background buildings or landmarks are in video game, anime, or TV series, and why, maybe, if you can explain. Originality, like, what is it about me like? I obviously learn every day, so I've not always executed on these ideas in the best possible way from the jump. But, you know, these are ideas that moving forward I'll definitely do even better knowing what I know now. That's why I'm kind of doing parts of Apple Black Volume 1 and like remastering it and improving the whole experience overall on all fronts, not just the background stuff, but everything for the Perfect Tank version of Apple Black Volume 1 and all the Perfect Tank versions moving forward. But don't worry, for those who've already purchased Apple Black Volume 1, I'd like to thank you guys because I still think it's pretty good, hence why it has good reviews on Amazon and everywhere for the most part. So you'll still be able to read what I'm going to do. I'm going to do these remastered versions and upload them to the site, and you guys will be able to read them for free. The Perfect Tank will obviously still have some exclusive stuff, but the key parts of the story you'll be able to read for free on the Saturday AM website, saturday-am.com, and that'll be when I update the pages, which I am already in the process of doing. So I'd like to thank you guys for all the support you guys give me regardless. You don't have to purchase the new Perfect Tank volume unless you want some of the exclusive stuff that will be in it, but any updates I make will be free for you guys and will be canon. And also, if you have the original Volume 1 version, it's kind of like a way for me to identify who's an OG supporter of Whyt Manga, and you know, that's also cool in itself. And once things are updated, the old versions would be, you know, the only versions ever, and I think there's like a coolness to that as well. But so that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and for the 1.5 people that made it to the end, I'd like to thank you guys a lot. Please don't forget the United States to smash that like button and subscribe button and hit that bell so you stay notified each time I upload absolutely anything. Get 2 free months of Skillshare, you're welcome. And check out our art contest that will be starting in March. It's called March Art Madness, and I'll leave a link in the description to where you guys can get more details on how you can enter that. It's kind of like the Whyt Manga tournaments that I used to do back in the day. For those who been the subscriber for years, you kind of know what I'm talking about. And it's kind of like that, but like to over 9,000 if I do say so myself. See you, space cowgirl in the sky. You want me call you an... I'll be uploading the Photoshop file of this illustration for my patrons, so I also like to thank my patrons: Arrow, Black Captain, Brandon J, Grish, Hackwolfen, at Hackwolfen on Twitter, JB_comics24 on IG, Sarah, at Sarah_lifejourney on Instagram, Tony, California, and NYC on YouTube. Check out his videos, cool animation, Pat O, and more. Check out my other videos, check out Apple Black. All the links you could possibly need, my social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff will be in the description. So Whyt Manga, and I'm out.